Okay. Oh, God. We were that close to nuclear war? Oh, hello everyone. My name is Jorge Amis, and today we're going to be talking about the Cuban Missile Crisis. Oh, Jesus Christ, this was about to start World War III. While this event happened 50 years ago, we were this close of actually getting to World War III and eventually nuclear war. The Cuban Missile Crisis occurred in October 16, 1962 and just ended in October 28 of 1962. The Cuban Missile Crisis was also known as the Caribbean Crisis, the October Crisis, and the Missile Scare. While many around the world call it by different names, the crisis was still the same: the threat of nuclear annihilation. So what caused the Cuban Missile Crisis? Just months before this, the U.S. transferred Jupiter ballistic missiles in Italy and Turkey, well in range in the Soviet bloc and Moscow itself. The Soviet premier at the time, Nikita Khrushchev, agreed that he would send Soviet ballistic missiles in Cuba, seeing how the Jupiter ballistic missiles were pretty much at his doorstep. These missiles had the range of hitting U.S. cities like Miami, Atlanta, New York, Los Angeles, and many other cities that were well in range except for Seattle. Seattle was pretty much safe. In response to this crisis, President Kennedy met with the Executive Committee of National Security Council, or EXCOMM for short. Between President Kennedy and EXCOMM, they pretty much both came up with 6 different solutions of how to handle Cuba. One option was simply to do nothing, seeing how the Soviet missiles were always a threat to the United States, since this is the Cold War after all. One diplomatic move they could do is internationally pressure the Soviet Union to remove their missiles in Cuba. Another way they could have done this is that they suggested to do a secret approach, which is secretly contact Fidel Castro himself and give him 1 or 2 options. Either you get these missiles off of Cuba or prepare to be invaded. One decision was basically to mount a full-scale invasion of Cuba, which EXCOMM unanimously agreed upon. Another option was to basically conduct airstrikes on where the missiles are located in Cuba. And lastly, the last decision was basically navally blockade Cuba, in hopes of preventing more nuclear missiles arriving to Cuba. While President Kennedy can see why the Joint Chiefs of Staff want to invade Cuba, he sees the bigger picture. He sees that if the United States invaded Cuba, the Soviet Union will see this as a justification to invade Western Europe. On October 22, 1962, President Kennedy made a televised speech to address the citizens of the United States that there were nuclear missiles in Cuba, saying that they were a threat to stability and peace, and also we're going to blockade Cuba. During his speech, the United States threat level reached to DEFCON 3. In a divided Germany, some say that President Kennedy's actions were actually weak and he should have just done more. The French, however, were a few conflicting terms. On some newspapers they say that this could have been a fake, the US intelligence are just lying so they could justify declare war on Cuba, and others say that the US did a good job on some other newspapers in France and Britain. Thankfully, the crisis is over. On October 28, 1962, the US and Soviets had a secret negotiation agreed to the following terms. The US will remove its Jupiter ballistic missiles in Italy and Turkey. The Soviet Union will remove nuclear missiles in Cuba. The US cannot declare war on Cuba without clear provocation. And lastly, there's to be an establishment of a nuclear hotline, which is a direct communication between the Soviet premier and the President of the United States. In the end, after all the things that humanity has done, for the end to justify the means, it was important for Kennedy and other officials who were involved with the Cuban Missile Crisis to keep a level-headed mind. And while others might justify to declare war because of the safety and the means of just national security, there were those who see the bigger picture. Those who see that if we do this, this could mean the end of the world as we know it. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. If you like this video, be sure to hit like, comment, subscribe, and comment down below what should I do next. Also, don't forget to hit that bell notification button so that way you can be informed of new videos I uploaded almost every time I finish making one. So, thank you so much, and also, stay tuned for more.